You might think that you know everything about vigilance, but do you? It's a simple ability with deep implications in our game, Magic the Gathering. It's a mechanic that seems to be about defending, but it's also about attacking in equal measure. I say in equal measure, but there's a third ability that we will talk about today that hides behind having vigilance. But when we're thinking about vigilance, we need to think about royal paladins, regal angels, and hulking beasts that are unconcerned with ankle biters, as well as the mechanics. So we will talk about both, but we will start with the mechanics. So there's something for every range of experience in this video when we're talking about experience with Magic the Gathering, of course. So let's go. I hope your coffee is warm and let's begin. So first of all, what is special about vigilance is that it is an evergreen ability, which means that it is very common. It has 945 cards that feature this ability, so that is a lot. You could, if you want, make a whole set with just vigilance cards. Don't know what that would look like. Well, that's an interesting question. I'll talk about it later, actually. Vigilance will often be put on a card without any further explanation. That is another side effect of being an evergreen card or mechanic, because people or the designers just assume that you know what vigilance means, so it can actually be pretty hard to know it. And vigilance might be used on cards with creatures that don't seem vigilant at all at first in their art and their story. So if we're talking about the mechanics of vigilance, it starts out pretty simple. Vigilance will allow creatures to attack without having to tap them. So that first means that you need to know about a core game mechanic of Magic the Gathering, which is that you need to tap your creatures in order to attack with them. And that brings me to that question: what if every creature had vigilance? Tapping to attack is one of the core mechanics of Magic the Gathering. When I explain Magic to someone, on the second turn there comes the explanation of creature cards that you have to turn sideways and what that means. Because then you won't be able to block with them, you won't be able to tap them again. It's not that you can use that ability over and over when it is on the card. So there are multiple things that are really complicated about vigilance because of what it is not. So this means that you can't use the creature to block, and that makes for an interesting choice. You get the choice to usually attack with the creatures or be able to block an attacker with that creature. And vigilance will take that choice away. So basically, if every creature had vigilance, a core mechanic for Magic the Gathering would be removed. And vigilance just means, therefore, that it removes a mechanic more than that it is a mechanic. So I don't think we can really put vigilance on every creature, because then it would just change the game at its core. Flavorfully, I think vigilance in Magic means four things: to see something, to protect something, to be careful, or it might note a certain kind of endurance, weirdly. Let's look at all four and see how these creatures are actually vigilant. The main flavor for vigilance is to protect something. It's a kind of active protection where you're on guard, quite literally, and you'll be careful of your surroundings so that you can prevent danger from coming too close. That is actually what also happens when you have vigilance creatures out. They can attack, and you don't need to be careful about defending later, because it will attack and will still be up for defending, while your opponents need to be careful of your creatures while they are attacking. So vigilance is actually a kind of aggressive, protective mechanic. Perhaps it could mean that you are scouting the perimeter, but protection is always, in every sort of flavor that we have, it is always a sort of part of vigilance. To be vigilant also means in Magic to see. Sun Titan sees all, for example, and that means that he gets vigilance, aside from the fact that he might be protecting some stuff. It's a certain kind of seeing that feels more like watching over something, and that might seem like the same, but it's definitely different. It's also different from just protecting something, because it's a kind of judgment that comes with the seeing before someone or something acts. It could even be a predator seeing its prey sometimes. Sometimes caring for people in your party can be vigilance, making sure that they are fed so you know what they need. Perhaps you see their hunger and cater to it, or perhaps you shield them from danger. But more than anything, you care for them. And then the weird one of the bunch, some mostly green cards are a bit weird with their vigilance. But that's because it's not in green's nature to be vigilant. They would see a prey perhaps, but more than anything, green doesn't look at the world, but at the mechanic. Because vigilance also means to stay active even after attacking. It means never tiring even after you've razed a whole city. And while you do that, you might also look out for your packmates, so there's a bit of protection there sometimes, but it doesn't need to be there for green. Vigilance, like you might have perceived, is mostly a white ability, which means that white often gets the ability even while there are commons at play. Many commons in white have the vigilance ability to just show off the game mechanics to newer players. It's a secondary ability officially for green, although that feels more and more common as there are 253 cards in green with the ability, and I think there are more and more green commons that also get vigilance, even on vanilla ones. It is also a secondary ability for blue, and I think that stays a secondary ability, where the color gets vigilance when it needs it, because the creature might have a tap ability and also needs to attack. For example, Kitsa needs vigilance because she has a tap ability to loot or copy a spell, but she also gets really big from the prowess ability, so it would be a waste not to let her attack and use her abilities in the same turn. It could also be an interesting choice of course for players, but I think usually you will want to give these creatures vigilance so that they can do both. It is also why Redshift gets the color, while he is definitely not someone that seems vigilant at least. But he just needs the ability because otherwise he wouldn't be as good, definitely not as a commander. With keyword counters from Ikoria, vigilance was also introduced as a counter. And it's actually a really easy counter to gain. It will cost you less than a mana added on a card to give something a vigilance counter. But there are actually many strong contenders where vigilance can be a great addition to the card. Exerting, for example, usually means you don't get to untap your creature next turn. But give it vigilance and getting exerted doesn't even matter anymore. Because then you don't have to tap your creatures, so that you don't mind not untapping them because they were already untapped. There's also another small upside where some cards care about creatures being tapped so that they can destroy all tapped creatures. Well, they can't do that with vigilant creatures because they'll never tap to attack. And you might tap them, but then it's not because you attacked with them at least. Do other cards care about vigilance? Well, there is Alert Heatponder from Ikoria that will give you life equal to the amount of creatures with vigilance. This is because their vigilance feeds and protects nature from poachers and monsters, but it's not really a game-ending effect yet. We have Frontland Validar from the same set, which is something closer to a commander for your vigilance creatures, because this cat allows creatures with vigilance to tap for 1 mana, so that you can tap another target creature. So yes, vigilance could be a deck type someday, but mostly if there will be more abilities that allow your vigilant creatures to tap, and after they've attacked, they can still tap of course, and that is a strong combination that you can add to your creatures. If we're talking about actual commander contenders, we have Inga and Asika, who are legendary, so we need that of course. They're not in white though, which removes part of the flavor and strength of their vigilance decks, but they do give everything vigilance and a tap ability, which vigilant creatures love. Some other great enablers are Enduring Vitality. This is a great card because it gives all of your creatures the ability to tap for 1 mana of any color. it is in green, and just add it to your Vigilant deck, and it could be a great help because all of your attacking creatures can add extra mana. It also has Vigilance itself, so in that way it also fits. If I think about why Enduring Vitality as an elk has Vigilance, even though it is almost getting grabbed by a tree, maybe that's because even vigilant creatures can't stop the dangers of Duskmourn. Maybe that. I think Agatha's Soul Cauldron should be an addition to your Vigilant deck, because it will give all of your creatures any ability that you can exile from the graveyard. And Ajani the Great Hearted is of course needed, because I think in Vigilant decks right now, you still will need some creatures that don't have Vigilance, because they will be good in your deck. And then Ajani will also give those creatures Vigilance. So it's kind of like it's a medallion to give your creatures the ability you need, as if you have a creature type that you need to share. The first Vigilance cards really show how strong Vigilance used to be as an ability on their own. This 1 mana artifact, for example, costs 2 to tap, so that you can give a creature Vigilance for a short amount of time. It really used to be a great effect, at least when 2 mana 1/3 creatures needed a drawback still. The most famous and actual first creature with Vigilance is on par with Shivan Dragon in Legendarity, and really showed what Vigilance could do in its simplest form. Attack, deal 4 damage, and stay back on defense as a really great blocker. Really, that part of Vigilance is already underrated, I think, because in races with your opponents, this is a deciding factor for a card, and that really adds more pressure than you think. The best offense can be defense. Vigilance can also be a bad thing. Sometimes you want to attack your creatures, and Vigilance stops you from doing that during your attacks. Or you might want to untap them, and then Heliod will stop you from tapping your creatures in the first place. That might be annoying in some cases. Last but not least, I think I want to talk about some more flavor, and some cards that really add flavor to Vigilance. First of all, we have Aurelia the War Leader, a really big angel that people already love for her ability and flavor, let's say it out loud. Aurelia says whenever she attacks for the first time each turn, you untap all creatures you control. And then you get to attack again. But what I really love about Aurelia having this ability is the fact that she doesn't even need to be untapped. She is so active that she already has Vigilance on her, so that, well, first of all, the first time that this triggers, this doesn't even do something for Aurelia. She was already ready to go again. She just needs another attack step, and then she will go again because she has Vigilance. Actually, that's a great addition to a Vigilant deck. Things that allow you to attack again but don't untap your creatures really need the Vigilance ability, because then they can still attack. But what I really love about Aurelia, to get back to the point, is the fact that she will attack again, and then still she will be up even after all of the other creatures are down for the count, even after she's inspired them to attack, even after she has attacked already herself, she will still be ready to go to war. Then, speaking about war, we have Teysa Karlov, who uses Vigilance in a really different way, because in the sets that she is from, there was the Afterlife mechanic, and Afterlife meant that if a creature would die, they would leave behind a sort of spirit token. And Teysa gives those creatures Vigilance. So what does that mean? It means that she tells all the spirits to wait for their moment to strike, basically. And that is interesting because of her flavor text. Will explain you why it's interesting. While Kaya is Guildmaster, Teysa waits patiently at the center of the Orzhov web of power. And the power in the Orzhov, of course, the power in the Orzhov is centered in their spirits. So Teysa really forces those spirits to wait for their time so that Teysa can once again take over the command of the Orzhov. She's really playing with those spirits and making sure that they are ready to strike when she needs it. She will outlast any Guildmaster, is what she says. Did she though? Anyways, Reda the Drubrick let's try once more and then give up. Rada Drabik of Urborg, 4 mana zombie wizard that gives your zombies vigilance. What I find funny about this is the fact that black doesn't really often get vigilance, so now your zombies get them. And do your zombies even need them, you might think? Well, one of the many drawbacks of having just a zombie deck is the fact that you will just have 2/2s usually. Nowadays you can give them flying, but it used to be really cool that you could give them keywords at all. So giving your zombies vigilance meant that you could attack all out with your many creatures, make them even more disposable, just do whatever you want with them, attack and defend. And then also defend, of course, so that you can use your creatures and maybe stack them to your opponents attacking you, and it will be futile to attack you. Exactly the thing you want to your opponents to experience when you are the necromancer here. Then Bruna really has an interesting story, going from the light of alabaster to the fading light, but keeping vigilance nonetheless. And I think that is a really interesting story here, because Bruna used to be the one to show people that she could see the way towards what is good. And the fact that she keeps it after being corrupted by the Eldrazi means that she is seeing stuff still, but in a way different way. And the flavor sort of explains it, because Emrakul does change the way you think and are. And it says she now sees only Emrakul's visions. That means that she still feels like she sees what is good, but it is actually dictated by whatever Emrakul wants people to see. So she's still a leader, but she has been changed in this way. Then the Sentinel Sliver, which I just find funny because it's one of the most goofy slivers, and slivers are meant to be a threat to the multiverse. But here it just says, how does something with no eye see so far? Really showing us that vigilance can also be seeing something, but also just telling us that magic can be really goofy sometimes, and this I do love. And last, but again not least, is Angelic Field Marshal, another angel, the third, and there are many angels because they follow Sarah that have vigilance. But the Field Marshal says, as long as your commander is controlled by you, Angelic Field Marshal gets +2/+2, and creatures you control have vigilance. So she will give all of your creatures vigilance, but not because they see something or necessarily protect something, but because her presence on the battlefield can transform an unruly mob into a disciplined army. So this is actually another kind of vigilance that I have only seen once on a card here. That means that if you are vigilant, you could also just be disciplined. So let me know what you think about vigilance. If there are any kinds of flavors that I missed, or if you have any more questions, just let me know. And I wish you a very nice day. And bye.